Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Michael, and I'm exploring all the different ways that stationery can bring me joy. I'm really excited for this video because I get to share with you my experience at a stationery event. Yoseka Stationery in Greenpoint, Brooklyn hosted the ink company Tono&Lims. This company was founded by Takashi Ono. He is a fountain pen enthusiast, and he partnered with Lims Lab, which is an ink producer in South Korea, to create this brand based in Japan. And they make fountain pen ink. Yoseka carries a lot of Tono&Lims ink, and they brought them for the first time to America for a Tono&Lims event, and this one was called a spacewalk. And I got to experience opening day. I went the first day just to kind of like get in line and experience the buzz, and it was really fun to, queue up, talk to people in line, go inside, meet people, take video, swatch ink, just enjoy the full experience. And then I'll also be sharing later on in this video, I did manage to get an appointment with the Tono&Lims Ink Lab to create my own custom color ink. And so I'll be sharing that as well. But this part of the video is just to kind of show you the haul from the first day when I went in for the kind of like opening, and show all the goodies and kind of show you around the event and what I ended up walking away with. So let's move this bag over. So the very first thing that I did was hit up the swatching and stamping station. As someone who has a journal kind of dedicated to stationery and my stationery memories, I knew that I needed to, have some stamps. As a newbie, I didn't have the foresight yet again to bring my actual journal to stamp in, but I did manage to take some of the paper that they had available and kind of stamp on this so I can cut it out and kind of glue it into my spread later. And the three stamps they had is this one, which kind of shows two of the Tono&Lims bears, one wearing the Yoseka apron and the other kind of stuck in the Brooklyn Bridge. They have one of just the bear in the Brooklyn Bridge and one of just the bear in the apron. And so I did the three colors that they had available and stamped those on this sheet of paper. So I'm excited to slice those up later and get them into my journal. So the next thing that I did while I was there is they had a station where you could pick a pen or pencil case, and then they had these decals that you could iron on. Well, you couldn't iron on. The attendant who was there would iron on for you. It is escaping me right now, the name of the company. I think it has the word idea in it. Obviously, I will put up here, some information. But it was really, really awesome. They had lots of different bear images to choose from. I had to go with the, Yoseka apron and the Brooklyn Bridge to kind of just keep it on brand with the Yoseka A Spacewalk collaboration. But then they also had this bear, which was super cute and has a little rainbow ear. And so I definitely needed that. And I had the person who helped me just kind of put them in this like little trio on the case. It's a really awesome case. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the ones that you find at Muji. It's like a mesh netting. What I like about it though is that there is a large pocket, and then there's kind of a space, but then there are these like interior pockets as well, so you can kind of keep post-it pads or smaller scissors or other kinds of stationery items or ephemera kind of organized, so it's not all just jumbling around in one giant pocket, which I kind of enjoy. And so yeah, that is this pocket here. Like I could see myself almost, if I wanted to bring like a metal ruler, kind of putting it on one side of the interior pocket and then putting all of my pens and markers. Ooh, does it fit a Tombow? It does! On the other side, and then that way my ruler's not getting dinged up by the other items in here. Or even if I had maybe a special fountain pen that I wanted to toss in here, it could kind of be on its own side, which is kind of cool. To see like what would be kind of like a toss around kind of pen case or pencil case, but you know, with the interior pockets, it kind of elevates it a little bit. And I have the lovely little friends on here as well. So when I'm not using it, it'll look really nice displayed wherever I decide to have it hang or sit up. And so I was very, very excited to be able to customize this and to be able to get it. And so that was pretty fun. Next, I couldn't walk away without the adorable plushy bear that was available. Sorry if you hate the crinkling. It's about to happen. But here she is in all of her plushy glory. Very soft. The apron is adorable. And it is 100% polyester. Lovely. But I love that it brings the little chain, and I can definitely see this hanging like on my pegboard or off of one of my bags to kind of commemorate this event. Very, very cute. I know that when they were building up to the event, they kind of showcased this and teased this bear, and so it's so fun to have myself. And let's see, some other things I picked up. This little Tono&Lims Bear Yoseka apron stamp. I figure this will be fun for my stationery journal whenever I visit Yoseka, and just as a cute bear as well. So I picked this up, and then another thing that I purchased was these ink swatching cards. I do have an ink swatching notebook. It's right here. This is where I kind of do the swatches of the bottles that I own and samples. But I've always wanted to try out some ink swatching cards, and I thought what better time than to get some from Tono&Lims. It's very, very adorable with this little bear and his fountain pen. And, you know, swatching the ink here, I think will be very cute. And I think for today, I would love to swatch some of the ink that I got at this event. So I'm just going to put these to the side to use in a moment. And last but not least, before we get to the ink, they did have some freebies at the event, and so I picked up, they had two different pins created for the event. One with that same bear with the apron kind of in front of the storefront, and the Brooklyn Bridge bear there as well. And I think these will be really cute to put on display on my pin board or on a bag. So glad to pick one of each of those. They also had a free vinyl sticker, so I grabbed one of those to put in my stationery notebook. And then we will move on to the piece de resistance, which is the inks. Now, they had like hundreds of bottles of ink that you could swatch at this event. And I told myself walking in that I was only going to get one. I told myself, okay, the ink that I want to get is this. The Tono&Lims Yoseka Moss. You know, green is Yoseka's like brand color. And I thought, this is this is what I'm going in for. It's the collaboration. It marks the event, and what's great about the Tono&Lims is they are smaller bottles, so I'm not getting like a giant bottle of ink, and I will have this Yoseka moss. However, while I was there talking and swatching with other people, someone brought out one of the Yoseka collaborations, Scent of Lavender, which is a scented ink. And I was like, okay, I didn't really think I was going to go for a scented ink, but then I saw people swatching it, and it did look really beautiful. And it smells like lavender, which I wish there was smell-o-vision so that you could smell it with me. But we will be swatching it in a moment. And I couldn't say no. I couldn't say no because it smells amazing. Kind of almost like there was this like violet cologne that a lot of Cuban families put on their babies, and it must have lavender in it as well because it kind of smells like that. And the nostalgia that like flooded over me, it was beautiful. It reminded me of being like a baby or taking care of my little sibling, and I was just like, okay, I'm sold. So that happened. And then when I was purchasing the pen case or pencil case, they had some ink swatches laid out, and as someone who was just recently tried their first shimmer ink, they had this color, and it was called Honey Don't Worry, and it looked so beautiful in the swatch that I ended up purchasing a bottle of it. Also, it doesn't hurt that the image is a bear holding like the cutest little coffee cup, and it is the rainbow-eared bear. And you can see probably, I don't know if the light's picking up all of the shimmer in this bottle. It is a brownish color, but the gold shimmer sheen in this was amazing. And we'll experience that together in a moment. And last but not least, while I was there, there were games. There's a different game each day. And so the first day that I was there, the game was the shooting. And so you pay $10 and you get this ticket and you walk over to an area. They had a little Nerf air rifle, and they had empty bottles of ink. Boxes. So boxes like this that were just empty and sitting on a table in like a pattern. And you got 2 shots, and if you knocked over a box, you won the ink. They were exclusive inks just for the game. And so I took my first shot, and I missed. And then I took my second shot, and I knocked over a box. It was amazing. I won an ink. So I got this Mosasaurus ink. It is like a tealish, greenish, bluish color. So I'm excited to swatch this as well. And I'm really excited because I won something, and carnival games are not my forte. I feel like I made my father proud in showing some sort of prowess and some kind of, sport adjacent activity. And so I am really excited to swatch this free ink. Well, I mean, I guess I technically paid $10 for it, but this ink that I won at the event. And so all of this is to say that I walked in for this, and I walked out with all of this. It was also recently my birthday, and I had gotten, I was, I think, a little emboldened by the birthday money that I received and some of my cards from my in-laws and other family members. And so I was like, well, how serendipitous that I have an immediate place to spend this money. So, without further ado, I think it would be really fun to swatch these inks. So I am going to just quickly grab my ink swatching towel, just in case I spill any, and kind of let's see these puppies and how they are in a swatch. So I'm just going to zoom us in a little bit. All right, so I'm going to start with the Yoseka moss. And recently I did a video where I had purchased an ink for myself for my birthday, and I wanted to test out different swatching methods and then different fountain pen paper. I can link that video here. And in the comments, somebody mentioned to me, because one of the methods was using a paintbrush, to not dip the paintbrush directly into the bottle of ink, because unless it's super, super clean, you could be contaminating the ink. And so the things that I know I can clean really well are these droppers, and so I'm going to be using the dropper to put a drop of ink and use the paintbrush there, so that I'm not risking contamination of the ink bottles. So here we go with the Tono&Lims Yoseka Moss ink. Whoa. So I'm wondering if 2 drops was too much. But it is looking very pretty. Just the card is buckling a little, and so I want to just flatten it so the ink settles. And I'm going to kind of set this aside to dry and then bring it back once it has dried a little. But so far, you can kind of see how that green is looking. But yeah, definitely a little too much ink, so maybe 1 drop on the next card. Oh, I forgot I wanted to write the name. So this is Yoseka Moss. So let's get the cap on this one. And now we're going to do the Scent of Lavender, the Scented Lavender ink from Tono&Lims. Oh, I'm realizing that there's a little bit of this Yoseka Moss left in this dropper. Putting it back in the ink bottle. Getting a different dropper. And I'm not going to take too much because I'm going to do 1 drop for this one. Okay. Alright. I wish that you guys, oh, that was not really centered, that you guys could be here to smell this lavender scent. Yeah, one drop is definitely less saturated. The card is not buckling as much, but you can kind of see that ink already. And let me just put in here. Scent of lavender. Is that an E or an A? It's an E. We're just going to pretend like I didn't need to look that up as a former English teacher. Little embarrassing. All right. Now my impulse purchase, the Tono&Lims Shimmer Ink Honey Don't Worry. Gonna make sure I shake this up really well. Gonna get this card and let's try this out. So, one drop. Okay. Oh man, I don't know if you can see that, but of course I'm not centered. It's a really interesting color. It's really light, but the shimmer is crazy. I don't know if that's showing up on camera yet, but I'm sure when it dries. These swatch cards are very interesting because the ink is kind of just floating on the top of the paper. And this one is honey. Don't worry. I'm just going to try to bring that up. I don't know if the shimmer is really coming out in the lighting, but man, oh, it's so pretty. And then last but not least, my Tono&Lims prize ink, the ink I got for being a sharpshooter with a Nerf gun. The Mosasaurus. I'm going to look and make sure that this card is more centered so that I'm not swatching it in the bottom right like the other two. I'm going to grab my dropper. One drop. Wow. That is a really interesting color. And so fun to think that I won this. I didn't write the name. Mosasaurus. Alright, so I'm just going to wait a moment and come back when these have all dried so we can see how they kind of look once they are no longer wet. Alright, welcome back. The samples are mostly dry, and so we can kind of see what they look like. So we have the one that is actually the closest to not being dry, which is the Yoseka Moss. My fault for putting 2 drops of ink. There's some lovely shading in this ink. You can see where the ink has kind of pooled. There's like a cloudiness and a shading that is forming that is like really interesting. Love this green color. I love that it's simultaneously light and dark. And so I think it's going to be a great little addition to the collection. And love that it's the collab between Tono&Lims and Yoseka. Here is the scent of lavender. You can see there's definitely some shading here in this ink as well, slightly, but more straightforward. Again, I wish you could smell it. Even on the paper, it has the hint of the lavender smell, but just a lovely lavender color that I can see myself using in the spring and summer. This Honey Don't Worry is this amazing combination of shimmer and sheen and a little bit of shading. It's like a luminosity to this ink that I can't even explain, but I know that the camera's catching it right now. It is absolutely gorgeous. I don't even know what to say. I'm gonna have to go out and get me a broad tip for one of my pens just to be able to use this. I have a little anxiety about the shimmer clogging up a pen, but might have to get a broader stub nib for one of my pens to do this, maybe for a Kaweco. Just absolutely gorgeous. I'm trying to think what it looks like. It is like a brownish color, but there's like a rose hint and then that gold. It's almost like a mother of pearl, but pinkish. It's fascinating. I'm obsessed. And my prize ink, the Mosasaurus. Really lovely. Definitely a shading ink. It is not completely dry here at the top yet, but really cool tealish color to have added to my collection. It almost feels kind of like a more intense ink color of the Sailor ink in teal that I have. It just feels a little more saturated, and I like that the shading, like you could see it almost looks like a cloud, the way that the light plays with it. So just really fun. So excited to have picked up these inks and all of the other little goodies that I got at this event. In the next part of the video, I'm going to be showing you guys the process of going to the InkLab to kind of create my own custom color ink. And so I'm really excited to share that next part of the video. So I will pass it over to future me, who will be able to show you what that was like. Hello, and welcome back. Thank you, past me, for that great introduction. I am here to talk a little bit about the InkLab experience that I had at the Tono&Lims Spacewalk event at Yoseka Stationery. For those who don't know, the InkLab is where you make an appointment. You can bring an item in, and then they will color match that item to create an ink of that color. This was especially sentimental for me because immediately when I heard that this was a thing, I knew that what I wanted to do was to do something to remember a family member. And so I have this handkerchief that I brought in. This handkerchief belonged to my grandfather. His name was Eduardo, which is why there is an E on the handkerchief, and I was really excited to have them create an ink that would match this. When I came in, my initial thought was, oh, I just kind of want this tannish color as an ink, and I didn't know if it was going to be too light. And when they looked at it, or the person who was there to make the ink looked at it, he said, well, actually, I can make you this tan ink and have it shade so that it has this reddish brown color as a shading element. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I would love to attempt to make that. What happens is you bring in the item, and then you do end up with 2 bottles of ink. You can't add shimmer to one or both bottles. I only added it to one. It was a pretty amazing experience. I was lucky enough, and I asked if I could record, and they allowed me to, so I can insert some, video here of the experience. It was pretty amazing that I brought this item in, he looked at it, and then just automatically was like, okay, obviously he's a master at this, but he was just like grabbing random bottles and mixing different things and weighing the amount of the different ingredients that were being put in. And he just got started right away at trying to create or recreate the color that I had brought in. And what's pretty awesome is, they will mix the ink and then they will show you a swatch of it as they are going. They allow you to use a dip pen to write with it so you can see what it'll look like in writing. In my case, they ended up letting me try swatches on 2 different types of paper, a whiter like Midori paper and a cream Tomoe River paper. He was telling me that the cream, because the ink was a tan, kind of affects the way we looked at it. So he tried it out on some white paper as well. And it was a really amazing experience. My grandfather was a really important part of my life. My parents were divorced when I was growing up, and my grandpa lived with my mother, and I spent the majority of my time at my mother's house, and so it was like my primary residence. So he was there. He walked me to school when I was in elementary school. He was there every day when I got home from school as I got older and walked myself. He was just like a very big influence on my life, and so it felt really amazing to be able to honor my memories of him with an ink. And so I was talking with another one of the people who were at the InkLab station, and they were saying how their family member had passed away, and how difficult it was, and how it was really special to do this ink to remember them by. So without further ado, what I want to do is kind of show you the ink swatch of the ink based off of this handkerchief. I'm going to move it to the side. And I thought I would continue to use our Tono&Lims ink swatch cards to do that. And so I'm going to take 2 of them. One for the ink with the shimmer and one for the ink without the shimmer. And so I'm really excited to do that. I need to get my nib pen because I also want to, or dip pen, excuse me. I want to write, although I guess to write I would need a name for the ink. We'll just call it Eduardo for now until maybe I can think of a better name to go along with it. Instead of a paintbrush for this swatch, I'm going to be using my muddler. I have cleaned it really, really well, and I have seen that some people will dip this pointy end of the muddler into the ink, put a dot here, and then use the ball or the rounded edge to swatch the ink. So let me get these boxes open. Also, I'm going to be swatching these little labels that they have given me because they go here on the box in this gray square, and so I can see the color of the ink there. So I think this is without the shimmer. And this must be the one with in the darker box. Oh yeah, you can see it there on the bottom. What's cool about the shimmer is they let you choose, and I think this was like a bronze brown shimmer that I added to it. They had like a whole menu, and so this has the bronze brown shimmer. There were other shimmers, and I'll show you in a second, that we tested out. I got to test out a few of them, and this one felt the most subdued. My grandpa was not a flashy guy, so it didn't feel appropriate to do a very flashy ink or shimmer in the ink. So without further ado, and maybe for this I want to zoom us in a little bit. Get a little bit more ink in some areas to see what it looks like darker. Also making sure not to hit the muddler on the side of my water glass. Someone mentioned that it could very easily break the muddler that way. And so I have here that first swatch. I'm gonna let it dry and then we can come back and look. But you can already see like the lighter tan properties and then the darker for the shading. Well, I guess I've actually decided that this is called Grandpa's Handkerchief. Wrote that before thinking to write Eduardo. But again, you can kind of see how that looks. I'm going to set this aside for a second. And we can do the shimmer version now. Hopefully the shimmer comes out in this. I'm going to mix it up again just to make sure it doesn't all settle for the writing. I kind of butchered the spelling there a little bit, but you know, mistakes were made. And here we have the ink. You can see the shimmer a little bit as it's drying. I'm going to let that fully dry, and we'll come back to them in a moment. I do also want to capture this on this label. So I think I'm going to do this bear for the non-shimmer version. Oh gosh, this sticker paper is not taking this ink so great, which is interesting. Just gonna mix up the shimmer one more time. I guess I'll try this owl. It does not seem that the stickers they provided were really meant to be absorbing that ink. They kind of look not great. Maybe I put too much ink. Maybe I can try and go in really subtle. Yeah. That's still not looking the best. I mean, I might have to go with the original ones just because they definitely capture the color, but it's not looking the greatest. Interesting. Maybe I'll just cut some of the swatch from the paper that they gave me. So before I reveal my swatches, these are the papers that they were swatching different iterations of the ink before we settled. So we had these two, and then these three. I believe these two are the actual resulting ink. So maybe I'll just cut and glue down and these swatches, because this sticker paper is not holding the ink very well. For the shimmer, I don't know if you can see how shimmery this paper is, but there were three different types, one here, one in the middle, and one on the end. And obviously this brown bronze is the least dramatic. This middle one almost made the paper like pearlescent, and this was also pretty dramatic, but I liked the more subtle on the left. Sorry that was not centered. So yeah, we can see this here dried. The darkest spots are still not super dried yet, but here is the ink. You can kind of see the lightness of the tan, and then the darker brownish red shading is, the lightness of the tan and the darker round red is definitely matches my grandfather's handkerchief. And then we have the shimmer, which you can see is a very subtle, glittery look. It feels like it's collecting a lot here in this area. But yeah, those are, or that is, the ink based off of my grandfather's handkerchief. I am so thankful to have gotten to see how the ink gets made. It was really, really amazing. Overall, really, really happy with the time I spent at Tono&Lims Spacewalk. so thankful to Yoseka for bringing them in. It was a lot of fun to see how the sausage gets made, as they say. And I'm really looking forward to using this ink a lot. It's a beautiful brown color in its base, and I'm excited to kind of find a special pen to ink it up with and have that with me. Thank you for joining me on this journey of the regular event and all the things that were there to have a lot of fun, and to talk about this special ink that was made. I appreciate you all being here. I hope you have a great rest of your day, whether that is many hours ahead of you or you were joining me right before you went to bed. And I hope that you continue to enjoy exploring the boundless possibilities of a blank paper. Until next time, I'll see you later.